talking through how that was different than like a normal setup. I assume there's a little bit different ramp time because we're talking about a completely new process for your talent, for your crews. Was there anything different in terms of like their prep? Like what went on there?
I'm going to have to correct you on that, Nick.
Okay.
That's the whole idea of this, right? That there is
Okay.
no new process for the talent or for the operators.
Gotcha.
The environment that they work in is exactly the same as they would on a fully built stationary, or should I say, static control room that wasn't put together in 3 weeks. It's the same thing, right?
Wow.
So
okay.
they would have
the same.
Yeah, it's the same latency, if not better. You name it, it was the same experience. And Talon had the same experience as well. Now, that being said, we did uncover a bunch of issues that we had to solve for, but that's a part of doing a live broadcast. And that being said, that was the whole idea, is to have that experience for the production control room be exactly the same as it would be in a production truck or in a static control room. Not to mention that the ingest from the site where we pulled in all those feeds, no change for that as well. The cameras were doing exactly what they would normally do. The ISO cameras, the tights, the follows, whatever the case may be. All of that content was loaded up, encoded, and delivered to the instance. And we had directors that were able to control those cameras, talking ISO for unilaterals, if you will, using comms to say, hey, I need you to pan right and zoom in. All of that worked. So again, there was no change. And that's the beauty of this, is that we're just distributing the heavy lift into the cloud.
Gotcha. And that's a good call out. And that's a good clarification there. And I think that's really cool, to be honest. The amount of prep I'm sure that went into that. And Andrew, let's talk to that. So from the AWS side, I'm sure you weren't giggling as much.
No, I wasn't.
So what did that look like prep-wise from our side?
I was not. I will say, and Andre summarized, I wasn't kidding before when I said the NHL's really become experts with all this stuff. He summarized it really well. The things that really stick out to me, I think, were the fact that we had done a lot of prep. When I say prep, I mean, kind of the proof of concepts leading up and, working on this together, that environment that we had used in December, that was shut down. So all those servers, all of that, the cloud-based resources, all those were turned off. Once we knew that we were doing this again in March, okay, let's spin it back up and let's make tweaks, let's make provisions and cater to that game on the 22nd. So, once we did that, I think really did this very quick. I mean, it could take a year to provision a production truck or a control room. And we had this space set up in 3 weeks. Wow. A big part of that was we had the infrastructure. Yeah, like I said, had to make a few tweaks here and there and work with our partners to maybe make some tweaks to their softwares and some upgrades. But ultimately, it was the same similar environment that we had done for a lot of those proof of concepts. And what really, to Andre's point, the learnings when we started working with, a third party, a broadcaster in the NHL network, given that we hadn't done this with them before, bringing them up to speed. And one cool dynamic that Andre pointed out of the learnings was, hey, we want a backup switcher just in case the main switcher goes down. We want a backup. So working with our friends at VizRT, okay, great, let's spin up a backup switcher. And within hours,
yeah.
If that, we had a backup switcher so that, VizVector could, if we wanted failover, we had a backup instance just to make folks feel comfortable.
Gotcha. But it wasn't even just setting up the initial suite. You guys were setting up backups. Like this was a whole process.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a lot to learn, right? And there's one thing our folks at NHL Network gave us the opportunity with their expertise to know exactly what they expected in this cloud infrastructure, this cloud PCR. And we took that with, we really listened to them in terms of how best that they would want this environment to operate. So we were able to use their expertise, their years of expertise on how they've cut shows and dial in the environment to what their specifications were. Then that gave us the opportunity to say, okay, well, now we know what's expected of this, and we can replicate this as needed. We also know where the gaps are, and we can fill them as we go forth and do this again. And that was a big part of this, is having folks who are very experienced in cutting shows capable of being able to do their job. Yeah, they had to get some acclimation to the overall to the systems in general, but for the most part, there was very little difference from what they do on a normal basis, and that was important for us. It was important for them, and again, it really helped us build the environment where it needed to be to support the show.